The world's largest fortunes cannot be touched. Modern wealth lives in code, belief, and invisible systems. In the new economy, cash is becoming obsolete. Algorithms and platforms now control the economy. The ultra-rich own influence, networks, and data. Invisible assets now outweigh physical power. This is not old industrial wealth. This is invisible power multiplying without limits. An idea can become territory. And intellectual property became the new empire. The world's most powerful technology fits on a thumbnail. The real prize is the knowledge behind it. Luxury is no longer about materials. The brand itself became the product. Amazon's most profitable business sells nothing physical. Cloud infrastructure became pure invisible profit. Beneath the oceans, invisible cables move human knowledge. Control the infrastructure, control the world. Control the infrastructure, control the world. The most valuable investment on Earth is a human mind. Thought itself became wealth. Algorithms now move billions in milliseconds. Machines trade faster than humans can think. Content became more valuable than physical media. Stories now travel instantly into millions of homes. Uber owns no fleet of cars. Its real product is coordination powered by algorithms. Cryptocurrency is wealth made entirely from belief in mathematics. Nothing physical backs it, yet trillions exist. Human behavior became the product, and data became more valuable than oil. Artificial intelligence is the ultimate invisible machine. Human knowledge transformed into endless scalable value. Invisible speed became the new weapon. In this world, milliseconds now decide fortunes. When wealth became invisible, warfare became invisible too. Tesla's greatest asset is not the car. It's the data collected from every mile driven. One economy is built on physical labor. The other is built on invisible intelligence, and it's winning. The world's largest fortunes cannot be touched. They cannot be held. They cannot be weighed. It's the new standard. But they move faster than any object on Earth. And they are worth more than every mine, every factory, every ship combined in the world. Trillions of dollars are stored in ideas, in code written by people you'll never meet, in trust, in perception, in belief. This is the architecture of modern wealth. Cash is a relic of the past, now being replaced by digital assets. The new currency lives in patents, platforms, and algorithms. You never see it, you never touch it, but it controls nearly everything. The world's wealthiest people own very little you can see. What they own is influence, network, data, control, and none of it weighs an ounce. This is not the wealth of oil barons or railroad kings. This is something new, something invisible, something that multiplies without factories, without workers, without limits. It began with a simple concept, my intellectual property. The government's promise that an idea belongs to you, that your invention is your territory. And territory in any era is power. Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, their real value isn't in pills or machines. It's in the molecules they own. Formulas protected for decades by law. The most powerful object in the modern economy fits on your thumbnail. And the knowledge to make it, the true prize, lives in patents, trade secrets, and engineering minds. This is where the future is written. These buildings do not manufacture anything. No product leaves their doors. Yet they generate more revenue per square foot than any factory in history. This is the invisible heart of the global network. Data is the new oil, and these are the refineries. A Birkin bag costs $10,000. The leather and hardware, less than $800. What you're paying for is a name, a status, a legacy, a story, a signal, a brand. Starbucks does not sell coffee. It sells an experience. It sells belonging, comfort, identity. The brand is worth $14 billion. The coffee beans, less than a fraction of that. Amazon's most profitable division sells nothing physical. AWS, cloud computing, is pure intangible. No product, no warehouse, just access. And it generates more profit than all the boxes combined together. The 5 largest companies in America produce nothing you can put in a box. Their wealth is code, algorithms, data, the most valuable resources of the 21st century in the world. Invisible wealth powering the visible world. Beneath every ocean, thin cables carry all human knowledge. Whoever owns this infrastructure owns a piece of every transaction, every message, every dollar moved. The arteries of the modern empire. Apple's hardware is assembled by others. Its real asset is iOS, the operating system. The App Store, the ecosystem, invisible software that locks in 1 billion users. Companies now carry more intangible value on their books than physical assets. The new battleground is not the factory floor, but the courtroom. It's the courtroom, the patent office, the algorithm. This is where modern wars are won. The best investment in the world is a mind. A single PhD student in a garage can create an idea worth more than a coal mine. This is where wealth is born, in thought, in innovation, in potential. Algorithms now execute 73% of stock trades. No human decides, no human intervenes. Pure mathematical logic moves billions in milliseconds across the floor. The speed of wealth is now the speed of light across the fields. Netflix doesn't own a single theater. It doesn't print DVDs or ship discs. It owns content, stories, rights, licenses, intangible products streamed into 260 million homes. Entertainment without borders, wealth without walls. A song costs nothing to duplicate. It can be heard 1 billion times without wearing out. Music royalties, pure intangible income, now power an entire economy of their own. The scale of the digital stage is infinite. The sound of modern capital. Airbnb owns no rooms, no beds, no buildings. Its only asset is a platform, a marketplace of trust. Yet it's worth more than Marriott, a company built on what it doesn't own. The platform is the prize, the ultimate digital asset of our time. Uber owns no fleet, no cars, no drivers. Its only product is coordination, a matchmaking algorithm worth $60 billion, built on pure intangible infrastructure that powers our daily lives. The efficiency of the invisible machine. Visa processes $14 trillion in transactions annually. It lends no money, holds no deposits, just pure network power. Its product is permission, the right to use the network. Pure digital infrastructure, pure intangible value. Even currency is an act of collective belief. The dollar has value because we agree it does. Remove the belief. The paper is worthless. Every economy runs on shared imagination. The architect of perception, shaping our shared belief and value. Cryptocurrency is the purest form of intangible wealth. It exists only as math. Decentralized energy powering the new economy. Decentralized belief turned into digital gold. The new frontier of the invisible empire. Google's search index is the most valuable map ever made by man. Where you click, what you seek, that information is worth more than gold. The world's knowledge indexed in a heartbeat. The library of everything indexed in a heartbeat for the world. 3 billion people have shared their lives with Facebook. Their interests, their relationships, their fears. Advertisers pay billions to access this map of humanity. The users built the product, Meta owns it. The digital echo of a billion lives. Every ad you see has been auctioned in less than a millisecond. Algorithms bid against each other for your attention. Your eyes are the product. Sold before you even look up. The high-speed trade in human focus and digital attention. Venture capital funds ideas before they become real. They invest in potential. Pure speculation on future intangibles. A check written for a dream that becomes a billion-dollar empire. The birth of a unicorn. A billion-dollar dream made real tonight. The capital of dreams, where the invisible empire truly begins. Salesforce sells relationships. Its product, customer relationship management, is pure knowledge flow. No inventory, no shipments, no expiration, the most scalable business model ever conceived. Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Merck. The congregation of the intangible, where ideas become absolute power. Artificial intelligence is the final frontier of intangible wealth. A model trained on human knowledge. Capable of generating value without physical labor. The most powerful, invisible machine ever built. The ghost in the machine is now the CEO, the campus of the future. Derivatives are bets on bets on bets. Paper promises backed by mathematical models. $600 trillion in notional value exists in these contracts, 10 times the entire global economy. $600 trillion in notional value exists in these contracts, 10 times the entire global economy. All invisible, all abstract, all high stakes for the global economy. The vault of ghosts, managing the wealth of nations in secret. A sports team's stadium can be worth $1 billion. Its media rights deal, $10 billion. The right to broadcast a game now outweighs the game itself. Belonging to the screen, a contract for the future of sports. The competition for the intangible stage. Drug companies spend $2 billion to discover a single molecule. If that molecule is patented, they own the cure. A patent is government-granted monopoly on knowledge, worth more than any mine or oil field. The law that owns the cure, a regulatory high-stakes game for life. The fortress of formulas, where the invisible empire protects its ultimate digital secrets. Part 1 ends where the question begins. The physical world, the world you can touch, is being eclipsed by something you cannot. The next empire is being written tonight in a garage somewhere. Welcome to the invisible empire, the final architecture of control. While the world sleeps, the machines never stop. While the world sleeps, the machines never stop. Trades are executing, data is mining. Algorithms are deciding who gets what and who gets nothing. High-frequency trading firms pay millions to be 1 millisecond faster than competitors. Speed, not wisdom, determines profit. The fastest invisible hand wins. Every billion-dollar product begins as keystrokes. A programmer's logic expressed in language. A system that once deployed runs forever. Infinite returns from a finite act of creation. In 1975, 83% of S&P 500 value was physical assets. By 2025, 90% is intangible. The shift from physical assets happened very quietly, but it changed everything about power. Walmart built its empire on physical logistics, but its greatest competitive advantage today is its AI inventory system. Invisible software that outsmarts every competitor who can't see it. Coca-Cola's secret formula has never been patented because patents expire, trade secrets don't. The most valuable liquid in the world is protected by the oldest form of intangible secrecy. Nike doesn't make shoes, its contractors make shoes. Its contractors make shoes for the world. Nike owns the brand, the design, the story. The swoosh, worth more than every factory it uses. Luxury brands manufacture scarcity. The waiting list is the product. The waiting list is the product. The desire is more valuable than the object. Rolex sells time. What you pay for is exclusion. Universities are the world's greatest IP factories. Stanford's technology licensing office has generated more than $2 billion in royalties. From GPS to Google, ideas born in lecture halls. Disney's most valuable assets are invisible. Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, ESPN, character rights lasting nearly a century. Stories worth more than any theme park they inspire. Goodwill on a balance sheet means we paid more than the physical assets were worth. Because reputation, because relationships, because the intangible was the actual prize. LinkedIn sold to Microsoft for $26 billion. No product, no factory. Just 800 million professional profiles, the world's most valuable labor market database. Zoom went from 9 billion to 130 billion in 1 year. The global pandemic revealed the ultimate truth. Physical presence was never the real work. Connection, the invisible, was always the product. Caesars Entertainment's most valuable asset was its loyalty database, 42 million customer profiles, not the hotels. When they went bankrupt, the database was preserved first. Data outranked every building they owned. If intangible assets are the new wealth, then invisible threats are the new war. Ransomware doesn't steal gold, it holds knowledge hostage. Apple and Samsung spent $1 billion fighting over a rectangle with rounded corners. It sounds absurd until you see the cost, until you realize the rectangle controls the world. Qualcomm doesn't build most of the chips it invented. It licenses the patents to firms globally. Every smartphone on Earth pays Qualcomm a royalty, pure intangible income from ideas built decades ago. ARM Holdings doesn't make a single chip. Every iPhone, Android, and smartwatch runs ARM architecture. A Cambridge design firm quietly powering the digital world. Stripe processes trillions in payments globally. 7 lines of code enables any business to accept money. The infrastructure of global commerce fits in a GitHub repository. In 2008, the invisible economy nearly ended civilization. Derivatives built on mortgages, built on optimism, collapsed under the weight of their own fiction. The most expensive lesson in intangible risk. The Federal Reserve conjured $4 trillion from nothing. Quantitative easing, money invented by decree. No gold, no asset, just a decision. Proving that wealth creation itself is ultimately intangible. Singapore has no oil, no farmland, no natural resources. Its entire economy runs on ideas and financial services. Per capita, one of the wealthiest nations on Earth, built entirely on intangible capital. China understood the platform is the empire. WeChat replaced the wallet, the bank, the post office. One app, 1.3 billion users. The most powerful intangible infrastructure in human history. Fortnite players have spent over $9 billion on virtual items. Outfits that don't exist, dances that live in code. The willingness to pay for digital status is the final proof that value lives in the mind. A JPEG sold for $69 million. Not the image, anyone can save it, but the certificate of ownership, a line of code. This is intangible wealth taken to its logical extreme. TikTok's most valuable asset cannot be seen or measured. It's the algorithm that makes you stay. The most powerful behavioral engine ever deployed. Governments fear it for good reason. Every Tesla on Earth is training the same AI. Billions of miles of human driving compressed into code. Tesla's real product is not the car. It's the dataset no competitor can replicate. Cloud computing generates $200 billion annually for 3 companies. They rent you access to infrastructure you cannot see. You pay every month for something that lives in a building. The fastest growing segment of real estate is buildings that house nothing human. Data centers, physical containers for intangible wealth, where the invisible world gets a physical address. The most powerful intangible is political influence. Tech companies spent $124 million lobbying in 1 year. To protect the right to keep building invisibly, your health records may be worth more than your home. Drug companies, insurers, and advertisers bid billions for aggregated health data. Your most private intangible, sold without your name, is the algorithm that decides what you see. Who gets a loan? Who gets a job? The invisible gatekeeper is now a machine. Starlink is selling internet access from orbit. No cables, no towers, no ground infrastructure, charging monthly for signals passing through space. Intangible assets can live in any country you choose. Apple's Irish IP holding company paid 0.05% tax. It moves at the speed of thought and of legislation. 2 Americas, 2 economies, 2 futures. One built on what can be touched, one built on what cannot. The intangible economy is at full power. The beauty of invisible wealth is its speed. It moves at the speed of thought and of legislation. 2 Americas, 2 economies, 2 very different futures. One built on what can be touched, one built on what cannot. Only one of these economies is winning now. The intangible economy is at full power. The most dangerous war in the world has no bombs. It is silent. It is fought with export controls, patent disputes, trade blacklists, technology embargoes, high-stakes diplomacy. The battlefield is invisible. The stakes are absolute. When America banned Huawei from its chip supply, the invisible became a weapon. It is a list of names, not a missile, that brings giants to their knees, brought a $100 billion company to its knees. One Dutch company, ASML, makes the only machine that powers our world, that can produce the world's most advanced chips. There is no alternative, no substitute. The entire $600 billion semiconductor industry depends on it. The most powerful government in the world decided that everyone's data was a national security asset. The invisible information of billions of people was quietly collected, analyzed, and weaponized. Russian state hackers compromised 18,000 organizations. They never crossed a border, never fired a weapon. They slipped through invisible backdoors and across the global network, and read America's most sensitive intangible assets. Google's AI engineers built targeting systems for the Pentagon. They saw the future. The engineers revolted against the machine, turning their backs on the algorithm. This became the most lucrative invisible technology in human history. It is now a battlefield of ethics. The AI race is the new space race. Whoever builds the most powerful invisible intelligence controls the global economy, the military, and the future. The prize is nothing you can touch. Carbon credits allow companies to buy the right to pollute. They trade permissions, the invisible global permissions of the power elite, on global exchanges worth hundreds of billions. Even the atmosphere has been financialized. The most valuable thing a company can acquire, the talent recruitment fair, is the front line of the talent war. A single AI researcher can generate more value than a factory. The talent war is the most expensive invisible arms race. Patent law can decide who lives and who dies. HIV medication patents kept drugs out of Africa, while millions perished. Guanchajia, invisible property rights with lethal consequences. Facebook's own researchers knew Guanchajia. The algorithm was tearing societies apart across the globe. Guanchajia, attention, captured and monetized. The most profitable intangible with the highest social cost. 87 million Facebook profiles were harvested without consent. Guanchajia turned into weapons of political persuasion. The invisible data of ordinary people, Guanchajia, was used to swing elections. Bob Dylan sold his music catalog for $400 million, Springsteen for $500 million. Dead artists earn more than living ones because their intangible work never stops generating. Modern sports franchises bid on algorithms, Guanchajia, player performance models, invisible intelligence, guide billion-dollar decisions in the world of professional sports, Guanchajia. The body is just the hardware, the data is the asset, a country's credit rating is the most powerful intangible. 3 private companies, Moody's, S&P, Fitch, Guanchajia, can collapse a national economy in a single day, Guanchajia, by changing a letter grade. The most powerful meeting in the world, Guanchajia, produces no product and signs no laws. It trades something more valuable: information, access, and global influence, Guanchajia. The invisible currency of the global elite, private equity buys companies using debt, 观察家, then extracts value from their most intangible asset, reputation and goodwill, 观察家, loading brands with debt while collecting management fees. A business model built on the audacity of the invisible. FTX held $32 billion in intangible crypto assets, billions flowing through digital contracts. 观察家, the most spectacular failure of invisible wealth management in modern history. 观察家, in modern history, evaporated in days. 观察家, the gig economy's greatest innovation was a shift in employment. 观察家, was reclassifying workers as independent contractors in the eyes of the law. 观察家, not an employee, not a partner. 观察家, an intangible relationship, profitable precisely because it's undefined. 观察家. Netflix's recommendation algorithm is worth billions. 观察家. It decides what 260 million people watch tonight, trained on your every hesitation. 观察家. Not a director, not a critic, an invisible engine making billion-dollar choices. 观察家. An invisible engine trained on your hesitations. 观察家. The US military's most critical infrastructure is now digital territory. 观察家. Now runs on a private company's cloud. 观察家. The Pentagon pays Amazon for invisible territory. 观察家. National security leased from a retailer. 观察家. Patent trolls own ideas they never intend to build. 观察家. They exist only to sue companies that do. 观察家. Owning territory you'll never inhabit in the digital age. 观察家. Owning territory you'll never inhabit. 观察家. A Harvard degree costs $350,000. 观察家. Its value, measured in lifetime earnings, often exceeds $1 million. 观察家. The credential is the most ancient form of intangible wealth. 观察家. A brand so powerful it reshapes destinies. 观察家. Insurance is the world's oldest and most powerful intangible product. 观察家. You pay today for a promise of tomorrow. Risk is the product. 观察家. Cyber insurance now covers the most invisible and devastating risk today. 观察家. Your entire business being encrypted by a stranger. 观察家. An influencer's audience is a media company. 观察家. Their followers, an intangible asset worth millions of dollars today. 观察家. The most democratic form of brand ownership. 观察家. Anyone with attention to sell can enter the market. 观察家. AI now produces art, writing, and code in seconds. 观察家. Who owns the output? Who trained the model? Who defines the art? The greatest copyright battle in modern history is being fought today. 观察家. Is being fought over invisible creative work. 观察家. CRISPR allows us to edit the very code of biological life. 2 universities fought for a decade over who owns the fundamental patent. 观察家. The right to edit human DNA, the ultimate territory of the future. 观察家. The most consequential intangible in human history. 观察家. Catastrophe bonds pay investors when disasters don't occur across the globe. 观察家. You can now bet against hurricanes and global disasters in the market. 观察家. Against pandemics, against earthquakes, the financialization of suffering. 观察家. The abstraction of human suffering into financial instruments. 观察家. Palantir processes the world's most sensitive and classified intangible assets. 观察家. Classified intelligence, military data, law enforcement profiles. 观察家. Its product, the ability to see patterns in the invisible. 观察家. The most powerful lens ever aimed at human behavior. 观察家. FedEx's competitive advantage is invisible to the naked eye. 观察家. Not the planes, not the trucks. 观察家. But the algorithm that makes 15 million automated decisions every single day. 观察家. Faster and better than any human could. 观察家. Our economic measurement tools were built for the age of factories. GDP struggles to capture the true value of software, brands, and algorithms. 观察家. We may be measuring the wrong things while the invisible economy grows. 观察家. While the real economy grows invisibly around us. 观察家. The physical economies retreat. For those who built things with their hands. 观察家. For those who create intangibles. 观察家. For those who created the world with their hands, it offers no seat at the new table. 观察家. It offers no seat at the new table. 观察家. China's Belt and Road was about roads. 观察家. Its digital Silk Road is about something else entirely, far beyond physical roads. 观察家. Fiber cables, 5G networks, and the future of global payment systems. 观察家. Invisible infrastructure, the new colonialism. 观察家. The next great war may be fought entirely by machines. guanchajia. Autonomous systems making life and death decisions on the battlefield, guanchajia. At speeds no human can match, deciding the fate of nations in seconds, guanchajia. The Invisible Empire's final evolution, war without soldiers, guanchajia. The war for invisible territory is already won and decided, guanchajia. Not by nations, not by armies, guanchajia. By those who understood first, guanchajia. The future belongs to those who own what cannot be seen, guanchajia. We built an empire no conqueror imagined. No emperor ever drew its borders on a map. No emperor ever drew its borders on a map. It exists in the space between thought and action. In the breath between a click and a result, the world is one. The 10 richest people on Earth have a combined wealth of over $1.5 trillion. Not one of them built their fortune in a mine. Every dollar was intangible from the first. Intangible wealth, built from the digital, now used to reshape the physical world. If machines create all the intangible wealth, who does that wealth belong to? This is the defining question of the next 50 years. Serious economists debate, and no one has agreed on an answer. A world of intangible production requires a new social contract. NVIDIA's chips power every AI system in existence. Its stock became the fastest to reach $1 trillion. Modern architecture. Not because of what it makes, but because of what it enables, the invisible to think. For the first time in history, world leaders sat together to discuss a risk they could not see, touch, or define. Global debate. Artificial general intelligence, wealth and weapon combined, is the intangible that may end intangibles themselves, a historic frame of power. Every empire begins with someone who dares to imagine. E Combinator has produced $600 billion in value, from conversations, from whiteboards, from the courage to build what doesn't yet exist. Japan's lost decade taught the world a lesson. Physical infrastructure without intangible innovation stagnates. Even the most disciplined physical economy must eventually surrender. Human cost, physical, must eventually surrender to the invisible. The vibrant tech future. From conversations, from whiteboards, metaverse dreams made real. Economies built entirely inside computers. Governments auction electromagnetic spectrum. They sell the right to use invisible frequencies. Economists analyzing GDP of worlds that don't physically exist. Digital data. AI doesn't just work invisibly, it creates invisibly. Writing books, composing music, designing drugs, the most productive entity in history has never once opened its eyes. San Francisco is the hinge, has never once opened its eyes. Building the future from code. Africa's mobile money revolution skipped the bank. Digital unbanked, went straight from cash to digital. The intangible economy is the great equalizer, if you can access it. Quantum computing will break every encryption in the world, secret codes, every password, every financial transaction, every secret, complexity beyond human comprehension, digital layers. The most powerful invisible force not yet fully unleashed. Even agriculture is being colonized by the invisible. Renewable energy is being colonized by the invisible. Invisible microbial intelligence being monetized for the first time. Data from the earth. John Deere now sells software subscriptions to farmers. Access is everything. The next resource war will be in space, for the data rights and frequencies. Not for rocks, for the data rights, the orbital slots, the spectral frequencies, the launch windows. The spectral frequencies, the launch windows. Even the cosmos is being claimed invisibly. 4 men who built invisible empires were asked to explain their power. Official setting. Were asked by lawmakers they fund. Google faces legal challenges amid antitrust rulings to explain why they shouldn't be broken apart. Brussels is the world's most aggressive regulator. 4 men who built invisible empires were asked to explain their power. Protective power, hearing. Energy itself is being dematerialized. Carbon certificates, virtual power plants, carbon certificates, grid optimization AI. The electricity economy is going invisible, like everything else. The electricity economy is going invisible, like everything else, powering the future. Brand valuation is the discipline of measuring the unmeasurable. Minimalist identity, perception. Interbrand assigns a dollar value to perception, trust, love. Apple's brand alone, $500 billion. Interbrand assigns a dollar value to perception, trust, love. Apple's brand, NYC, $500 billion of pure human feeling. Intangible value rewarded, success. The world's richest families have already made the shift. Reviewing portfolios, growth. physical assets, insurance, intangible assets, growth, technology-dominant equities, data. They understood the transition before anyone named it. Anonymous power buildings, silent. 200 families controlling more wealth than most nations. Elite networking, quietly. AI-powered medical diagnostics scan with superhuman accuracy. Life-saving data. AlphaFold mapped 200 million proteins with invisible intelligence. Structural mapping data. Results. Where AI and biology merge to attack disease, laboratory complex campus, biotech. Not a scientist, not a lab bench, an algorithm trained on invisible patterns. Genetic John Hui. ESG scores are intangibles evaluating intangibles. Ethical finance monitoring, data review. How ethical is your invisible empire? Data reviewing corporate behavior. Dashboard.Janhui. $35 trillion now considers non-financial data before any investment is made. Who owns an idea after it's shared? Memory stored in the cloud. Debate Janhui. Sketching the difference between tangible and intangible wealth. Literacy, future, sketch. They understood the transition before anyone named it. Anonymous power. They are the legal battles of the next century. The truck driver will be the first great casualty of the invisible economy's full deployment. 3.5 million American drivers. Replaced, truck, highway, Janhui. Engineers monitoring fleets they don't drive. Operational center, screens, control, Janhui. Replaced by invisible intelligence in a decade. Code and algorithms. Logic, Janhui. 3.5 million American drivers replaced by invisible intelligence in a decade. Navigation. Lawyers, accountants, radiologists, professions built on intangible knowledge. Disruption. The professions built on intangible knowledge are being replaced by machines that master intangible knowledge faster. Institutional tradition, education. Janhui. Every expert is now in a race against their own replica. Wave of disruption. Event, Janhui. Currency with rules embedded in code. Programmable money lab, secret, Janhui. Money that thinks, the final evolution of the intangible. ECNY, Yuan Janhui. Not for rocks, for the data rights and orbital slots. Mapping space. Central bankers designing the invisible money of tomorrow. Global summit, money Janhui. A generation has grown up never knowing another world. Hazy sunset over tech park, valley, Janhui. For them, the invisible is the only reality. They do not miss the physical. In the end, the oldest intangible is meaning, resonating beyond physical existence. Museum, Janhui. They are the first native citizens of the intangible empire. The intangible economy can lift billions. The prestigious institution, Washington World Bank Janhui, studying how digital access changes wealth distribution globally. The digital divide, access, team.Janhui. The question is not whether invisible wealth will grow. The intangible economy can lift billions or widen the gap beyond repair. Student. The most dramatic board meeting in Silicon Valley history lasted 4 days. It was a fight over who controls a nondescript building hosting civilization's hinge, San Francisco mission, drone. $13 billion invested in invisible intelligence. It became a substrate. The real economy now runs above it. Space transition, Janhui. All running on the same invisible backbone. Financial data floor, wall Janhui, in the protocols, in the shared belief that ones and zeros matter, cable map.Janhui, the visible proof of invisible civilization, the greatest transfer of intangible wealth in history reinvested in humanity, office, not a scientist, not a lab bench, an algorithm trained on invisible patterns, science. Billionaires who built empires of code now fund the oldest physical problem, disease. Gates, Janhui. The circle completed. Physical life saved by invisible ideas, vaccination, hope. The student who understands intangible assets has an advantage over every generation. Educational, sketching the difference between tangible and intangible wealth. Literacy, insight. The new literacy is understanding what cannot be seen. High school campus, energy. Diplomas handed out, invisible credentials granted, futures altered. Hopeful conclusion. The intangible economy reaches those with access. Portal to the world. Farms, Janhui. The most urgent infrastructure investment in history is a connection to the invisible. Discussion. A formal grant announcement reaching the last mile. Access is everything. Official. Access granted to the global empire. A portal opened. High-speed internet in Montana. Family, Janhui. The bank of the future has no vault. Pure invisible infrastructure. Transformation. The physical economy's retreat accelerating. No marble lobby. No tellers. Vault. 60,000 technologists working invisibly, high-speed infrastructure, just an app, and the invisible trust that your money still exists somewhere. Governments auction electromagnetic spectrum. You cannot see them, but you cannot live without them. Engineers carving invisible bandwidth into virtual networks. AT&T paid $23 billion for radio waves you cannot see. Financial board. Spectrum. The physical structure to carry the invisible future. Digital heights. We look at the Earth from space and see light. Those lights are not buildings. Connection. They are the evidence of thought, of connection and humanity, of billions of intangible relationships made real in their eyes. The visible proof of invisible civilization, billions of relationships made real. Night. The oldest intangible is meaning, resonating beyond physical existence, artistic, museum. Invisible cultural value crystallizing. Bidding reaches 110 million. Physical paint, carrying invisible meaning. Pure human feeling and emotion. Standing alone before a masterwork, the most human intangible, awe, gallery, story. The age of the invisible empire is already here. Power beyond. The question is not whether you believe in the invisible. The question is, do you know how to build it? The invisible empire still building. Final digital beat, fade to black, the invisible empire still building.